Y habéis elegido bien, Alteza.
Hi there, my name is Beck, and the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell so you're notified when new videos drop. So it's Friday, the weekend is here, and I hope you all got exciting things to do. One of the things you may want to consider doing is sitting down and watching a movie and not going out and interacting with anybody, which is kind of what everyone is telling you to do nowadays. But whatever you want to do, whatever floats your boat. But if you are going to watch a movie, I think we have a recommendation for you for this one. We have an extra large panel to discuss movie we're watching tonight, which is, of course, Guillermo del Toro's fantastic Pan's Labyrinth. What year was that from? 2004, I'm going to guess, 2002, 2004. I will look it up once I bring 2006, I'm being told. So I'll bring the first person on who was telling me that. It's nice that I am a man of the cloth, but sometimes I feel a bit lonely. Can't find another rabbi. Cannot find another rabbi. But you know what? There's more than one set of police out there. So we bring you with pride and pleasure, Father Christopher Miller. Father Miller, how are you?
I am doing good, Rabbi. I really enjoyed this movie, and I'm looking forward to it.
Have you seen it before, or is this your first time?
No, I have not.
Oh, excellent!
This was my first time.
Next up, we have we have a being. We have a being, slightly problematic one, however, but he's a being nonetheless. May I welcome onto the panel, Problem Being. How are you? Good afternoon.
Hello. I feel like I'm in whatever it is. Yeah, I feel like I'm in divine company here.
You are. Don't worry.
I am blessed.
Yeah, I'm probably defrocked, so don't worry. If anybody ever sees my YouTube channel, that's it. I'm over. I'm done.
You're like the conscience on both sides of my shoulder. It feels like here.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I don't know which is which.
I would be the guy in red, I guess. They know on your shoulder.
Well, you're kind of wearing red.
Okay, but now we're going to break that up now. We have a new guest tonight. I was told that this is our next guest. One of their favorite movies. They're a fantastic YouTuber, and I'm excited to hear the insights that I'm sure you're going to have. So may I welcome onto the channel for the first time, and hopefully not the last. Purple Valkyrie, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, Father Christopher.
I only just noticed what your avatar was very small before us. This is the first time I'm going to say it. What's with the upside down purple bat? I'm intrigued.
Honestly, I just love bats. It's just it's just an animal I use to represent myself when I'm not on camera.
Okay. There's a whole podcast, that we need to get to in this at some point. Next on panel, we have another guest. It's the first time, but I hope not the last. The wonderful, the erudite, I would say Sheffield's first lady of Doctor Who, the one, the only, the starry-eyed girl.
Hello, Rabbi. Thank you for having me.
So very good. You are from Sheffield, right?
I am from Sheffield. Yes.
I
don't like to boast about it now after Doctor Who.
It's a good country.
Listen, you have redeemed Sheffield in the eyes of Doctor Who. So, any movie discussion needs a geek. Definitely does need a geek. So we have a resident geek here, but we don't just have a regular geek. We have an awfully large geek. I would say a mega geek. How are you? Let me add you onto the channel.
I'm okay. How's everybody? All right? Yeah.
Pretty good.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also in our supersized panel tonight, because again, this movie is so great, we can't have the normal 5 or 6 people. We're up to 8 tonight. So I would say we need a bit. What? What?
I said, holy cow.
Holy cow! we need a bit of royalty. We need some royalty to give their regal thoughts on this movie and their insights. Royalty is hard to come by. Royalty is hard. So I went for a more localized royalty. I went for Birmingham's royalty. Birmingham's own King of the Geeks. It is Dan Hadley from the Space Book and the Type 40 podcast. How are you? We need to get you a crown. We need to get you a crown on one of those.
He gets a fanfare, for heaven's sake.
I should get one that sort of hangs down there, maybe. Yes, How are we all? Good evening, good afternoon, wherever we are in the world.
We are
King of the Geeks.
we're all over the place, I think.
Well, my kingdom, Rabbi, it's even more overgrown than the one in this film. So I should own up to
that.
Is it as dark and scary?
Yeah, look at my garden. When I do, it looks very nice.
Well, it is Birmingham, isn't it?
Yeah. So you don't want to examine it too closely.
And last, but by no means least, we are from many different zones on this panel tonight. We're in different parts of England, different parts of the world, but we have one zone that is not represented. One zone that's not yet represented, and this zone is dressing for the occasion. We have, of course, the wonderful Tardis zone. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys? Hope you are all well.
Fantastic.
I am anyway. I can't talk to speak.
Thank you. Great, thank you.
This movie was fantastic. Can't wait to get into it.
So yeah, let's talk about the movie. It's of course the wonderful Pan's Labyrinth, 2006. Father Miller told me. Guillermo del Toro. This I think is his masterwork. It's he's done a lot of very, very good movies. This this is his Citizen Kane. Yeah, although his movie he did after this, I enjoyed too. So so it's not entirely like Citizen Kane. Is it a fantasy? Is it a young girl struggling to process the horrors of her everyday life? Is it both? I think it's up to the viewer to decide. So let me do a brief introduction about the movie. We'll move through it, via the plot. We'll move through it chronologically. So it starts off. It is 1944 in Spain, and there's a lot of politics going on in Spain, which I don't really know much about, other than Franco's the bad guy. Franco's the bad guy. He is aligned with the very naughty people from Germany, the Social Democrats from Germany at the time, and the head of the fascist forces, the Franco forces, in a small town in a wood basically in the middle of nowhere, is waiting for his new wife to arrive and a daughter. His new wife is heavily pregnant, and his daughter her daughter is a bit of a dreamer. She likes to read about fairy stories. And at one point, and the pregnancy is going very tough for the mother. She has to stop. She gets out of the car. I think she needs to vomit. I'm not sure. But as she does, the girl starts to look around. She finds these ancient looking statues and runes. One missing an eye, and she finds a rock that makes the eye and puts it back in. And a little, I wouldn't say a little, massive insect comes out and starts flying around her, who she becomes fascinated with. And slowly but surely, we are introduced to her life. She is the stepdaughter of the commander of Franco's forces, who is not a nice man at all. And he's demanded that his new wife come to him when she gives birth. He's assuming that it's going to be a son. That even though it's extremely dangerous for her, he makes it through the journey anyway. You get the vibe he's not a nice man, but you're not really sure for the first 10, 20 minutes or so. He might just be a guy who has a job to do and does it, but then he finds a couple of people who were hunting rabbits because they're starving to death because there's no bloody food. It's the middle of the war, and he brutally smashes the son's. He's a grown son, but he smashes the son's face in just horrifically before in front of his father, and then shoots the father and the son, who is still not completely dead yet from the beating. So he's not an awfully nice gentleman. So I think that's a good resting spot. So let's go through the panel and talk about whatever his thoughts are up till this moment in the movie. Father Miller, I do hear your basic overview as well. What would you like to say about it?
This is the very first time I've ever seen the movie. I've heard of it, but never watched it. I got to admit, I'm like you. I always found the Spanish Civil War to be confusing because if I understand it, it's like you're rooting for the Nazis or the Soviets.
Yeah, exactly. There's no good guys here to go for.
It's a lose-lose. But the thing that blew me away at the beginning was just how beautiful the scenery was, the colors, and just the music. Everything went well together.
Yeah. Actually, there's this wonderful like haze, like these little like insects flying around everywhere. I wonder if they were in camera or if they were put on afterwards. It was something scripted or not. But that's one of the cornerstones of the movie. The shocking beauty of it. As oftentimes it's a horrific beauty, but it's just this shocking beauty that just is mesmerizing that you can't tear your eyes away from. Problem being, would you like to interject?
Yeah, I mean, it starts off with a sort of a curious situation where you see this girl and we have this kind of voice and the blood disappearing back up her nose. So it's all like in reverse, but she's breathing heavily.
Oh yeah,
you want to know. Movie, yeah, you want to know what's happened and what's going on, and then you kind of cut to this kind of this scene. And it seems quite normal, and you go, okay, this is fine, and then really the shock of the transition between the sort of setting up the scene and then finding out who this guy is, and you think, oh god, what's this girl going to be up for, in this scene, because you think, well, she's entering into this new world. So it's like obviously a sort of the hero's journey, coming of age, that you're going to be in for. But it's quite brutal and quite, as you say, stunning. it's eerie.
That scene with when he finds a couple of people hunting rabbits. That was just. I mean, that's a really good way of setting up your character so you're supposed to not like it.
Yeah, right? You know exactly what you're in for.
That really. They did. And also, actually, I say that there was a very basically everything in this movie I think is just well considered and well thought out. It's just a really good. Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. It's a wonderful way of showing you who the character is very, very quickly, right? So now you have all the information you need to know, and you know the danger this girl is in, who you are, who's the protagonist, who you're rooting for, because this utter monster is a guardian, right? So it's absolutely terrifying, and also her father has passed away, and so she's dealing with that, and it's just horrific. It's just, again, horrific and beautiful all at the same time.
Absolutely.
Purple Valkyrie, what are your thoughts on the beginning of this movie?
Oh, well, I think as we said before, this is one film that I can watch over and over again. I never tire of this film. But I agree, it's beautifully shot. The colours are amazing. And that scene that you were talking about, just what it establishes what a bad guy Captain Vidal is. I love that they didn't pull away. They keep the camera on.
Yeah.
Active on.
You see Joe Tomo's roots as a as a horror director really coming to the fore there, right? I mean, like he really knows what he's doing with that.
He really does. And I think the one thing it's worth mentioning how brilliant Ivana Baquero was. I think as a child actress, she really nailed this role.
Really was. Yeah. Has she done anything since?
She's been in television series. I'm not sure about films that she's been in recently, but she's still acting. But this, she was just amazing in.
She's fantastic in this movie, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Starry, what are your thoughts on the beginning?
I'm struggling to find anything new to say because you've all said everything that I wanted to.
Yeah.
I just love how it hooks you in straight away, because I've not watched many films with subtitles. I think the only one I'd watched up until this was Amelie, and it's gone, obviously very, very different.
It is very different.
And you suddenly just forget about it because you're that drawn into what's going on. It just hooks you in. And
right, yeah, no, I didn't. And the good thing about it being subtitles is it really stops you looking at your phone during the movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
It keeps you focused on the movie, which is I wish every movie could find a way of doing that, because it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you think this movie would work without if it had been dubbed in English? I don't think so. I think people would have lost interest with this movie. I think it's better with the subtitles.
The trailer is just horrible. The trailer is because it's got this like really terrible trailer voiceover. You're in a land. It's so bad. It's like it's so bad. It's not even good as a parody. It's so cringy. Oh, every moment of it. But
I think sorry, Dan, go on.
So you're going to look for a print with the English track. Did you go for that, or did you go for the subtitles?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't have my name there. Yes. Well, not wishing to jump the gun. And yeah, let's get the bad stuff out of the way first. I had to watch this. I confessed on the last show that what Noel was just saying, subtitling and dubbing to me as a movie watcher is an art form in itself. I think that obviously with the great many films that we see, the subtitles is probably all automated, how they're generated, how they're put on, or whatever else. But I think for those filmmakers and TV shows that go to a little bit of time and trouble to tailor it, it can actually support, depending on the preferences of the viewer, it can actually translate it much better, or certainly it can make up for whatever shortcomings or instincts any particular viewer may have. An example I give is the TV show Heroes, where they incorporated subtitles into that absolutely beautifully in a sort of comic booky way by floating it all around. And it's the same with dubbing. So yes, let's answer the question, Dan. No, I didn't. I didn't really have time, so I stuck with my version on DVD. I listened. Because it's been a while since I watched a subtitled film. It's been a few years. I've got a major problem with subtitles, and I did do a lot of groaning last time we spoke. Now, with this, I'm afraid, yes, yet again, I had to watch this in two halves. I couldn't watch the whole thing subtitled. It drove me mad. It absolutely drove me around the bend. So I just couldn't do it. And what it is. Before we get into the film, before we get into the actual film itself and its value, here's where I am with subtitles, okay? And this is even more so, because this is what Del Toro is one of my favourite directors. I mean, just look at that scene there with Ivana in the background. It is absolutely beautiful. Yeah. When I watch a film by a visionary like this, and production design, bear in mind that I work in graphic design. I have done conceptual design for animation and for live action. So this is my wheelhouse. So when I'm watching a film of this nature, even more so, I am looking at every tiny detail of that production design. I'm well aware that this is really personal to me, this reaction. And you know, I'll just remind everybody that the way that we take in stories and the way that we respond to movies, just the same as the written word, is different depending on whatever learning style we've got. Anybody out there who's
I was going to say, you sound apologetic. I don't think you should, because you know, like when I was watching.
Well, I can hear a few titters already. You see, from some of my panelists.
I empathize, you know, because when I was watching this, it took me. It's like a 2-hour movie. I spent about 3 hours on it because I kept getting sucked into the visuals, and I didn't.
Exactly. And you're the same. You're the same as me. You're a designer too, you know. And so yes. I want to get all the bad stuff out the way first. So this is a bit of a confession already, but I want people to understand that you know, if anybody out there, any of you guys who've had teacher training, or anybody watching who's done teacher training, we all learn in different ways. Teacher, you know, there's learning styles, and it's the same with how we respond to this sort of information. Men are visual creatures anyway, and you know that already, girls. But we are visual creatures and designers and artistic
Check your
types,
privilege.
even more so. So with something like this, and this is the journey that I go on with, and this is why I had to break it into two halves. Even though I was enjoying it, even though I was dragged in, I hung in there for about 25 to 28 minutes, and I found myself looking in the background at all that rich detail, and before I knew it, I'd missed. And there was a lot of dialogue in this. It's not as if this was live. So I missed a couple of captions of dialogue because I was looking at the production design, and I thought, I'll pick it up. And then after about 5 minutes, I thought, hang on, I've missed something.
No, you won't. No, every line is there for a reason.
So I started to miss elements of the plot and of the character building because I was looking at the production design. Now I know that experience isn't the same for everybody, and so I find it's almost like I had to go back and watch some of it twice just to make sure I was taking it all in. and processing it all, which becomes a little bit, even if you're enjoying a film, even if it's against your better judgment, it turns things into a bit of a chore. And in my case, in my personal case, it stops me from really getting on the other side of that screen and becoming part of the story. I never cease to be an observer, rather than, I think with a great deal of movies, I transport myself. I think a lot of us do. You're almost there with them. That never happens when the subtitles in the equation. It's a screen.
For me, I hear 100% what you're saying. For me,
that's why I'd rather watch a dub, Rabbi, because even though the dialogue.
The dub takes me out of it, even unless it's like a
Dark. It works very well with the series Dark on Netflix. It's not so jarring. I mean, it is an art form. It really is.
Give it a go. Okay.
I don't want to bog this all down, but yes. So I would have enjoyed this. I'm kicking myself a little bit. It's my own fault. I should have taken the time to act, because I respond every time I see a subtitled film. And don't get me wrong, I haven't seen hundreds of them. I've probably, since in adulthood, I've probably watched 10, 15. But, I am in my 40s now. I know what I like. I know what I respond to and what I don't. This will be the last time that I try with subtitles, because it ruined the film for me. And I was going to swear then. I really loved this movie. Let's just clarify that. But yeah, I did have to watch it in two halves, and it's my last go with subtitles.
I hear what you're saying with everything, but I found with this movie, when we're in the final third, I'd forgotten I was reading something because I was so invested by that point. We'll talk about it when we get into the plot. Mega Geek, we haven't got to you yet. What are your thoughts on the beginning of this movie?
I really liked this movie, like everybody else. Just to come back to what Dan was saying, this movie has a place in my heart. Do you know why? Because it was the first time I realized that without dialogue, you can still see what's going on. And I remember I saw this in the cinema, and I fell asleep halfway through it because I was so tired, because I was working, and then I went to the cinema and I fell asleep, and I kicked myself because I didn't see the ending of the film. I woke up when everybody was leaving.
Oh man, I would have stayed to go to the next reel.
So when I got a hold of this film on DVD, and I hate subtitles as well, I decided to watch it without sound. And do you know what, right? I could tell what was going on, even without the dialogue, completely. Because I was learning how to direct mostly at that time. And I watched the whole film without sound, and I knew what was going on. Yeah,
I think you do know up to a point, certainly.
Yeah,
I think plot-wise you do, but I think you lose the nuances of character.
You lose the detail, yes. But if you can watch a film without sound and know what's going on, you can tell the guy is a master filmmaker. Another thing I want to point out,
because I tried a couple of scenes just like that, Ian, and because I was aware that it was, because I was enjoying it, but I was aware that it was losing me, and I didn't want it to, because I was enjoying it so much, and so I did try that for about 3 or 4 minutes, but no, I missed something key then too.
Well, you can tell that this guy's a bad guy. You can tell that he was trying to protect all the food in the thing, and they were trying to get to it, it's
very expressive
without looking at the dialogue, without even looking at the subtitles, you can tell. But another thing that I realized when I was watching this film is you can tell it's a labor of love.
Yes.
Totally, right across the board.
Yes, 100%.
This story had probably lived in his head for 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell. And also, I love the way it balances evil and good. Obviously, the girl represents good, and the evil guy represents evil, and this whole plateau represents evil. Another thing I noticed as well as a filmmaker is does
she represent good, or does she represent innocence?
No, she represents innocence and good, obviously. But the one thing I noticed as well, they must have really, really poured their hearts out doing the grade on this film, because I don't know if you realize, when you have the scene where they're in that place where they have all the food and stuff, when he is outside, it's all blue, but when he walks into it, he's not a normal color, like skin tones are there and everything else. So that must have gone through extensive grading with the guy, and he must have isolated him as he came through the door to make sure that he had all the colors and everything else.
Which blue. I thought we were talking about the scene with the freaky guy with the hands and the eyes.
No, that's different, because that is the fancy element of the film.
I would imagine this really rewards repeated viewings like that.
Yeah. So what we're talking about here is the evil, which is that guy and all the soldiers and we're talking about that. It's mostly blue. It's mostly, if you look at the colors, mostly color blue. But when you look at the fantasy element, it's loads of different colors. You have reds, you have, you know what I mean? And so it's an interesting, as I said, when you look at it that way, you can tell it's a labor of love. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think the fantasy elements, they're almost all warm colors. And the reality, it depends how you want to.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
The 1944 storyline is very greens, grays. Valkyrie, I want to ask you, do you know anything about the making of this movie? Like, is this something that Guillermo del Toro had in his head for years and years? This just seems like it was, yeah.
It is, absolutely, yeah. This is a story, as you say, he had kind of visions of it, and he would put it in. Del Toro is well known for having a sketchbooks that he carries around with him.
Oh, okay. I will demonstrate 1 second.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so whenever a vision or something pops into his head, that's it. He always marks it down. And this particular book that he had, he actually lost in London in the back of a taxi cab.
I did hear that, yes.
Yeah,
that's what I found at the back of that taxi.
Is that
luckily for Del Toro?
Book as well, yeah, that they lost.
Do you know another thing that was satisfying about this movie is the way the bad guy gets his up comments. You know, because he was so evil all the way through, wasn't he?
He got to come up, and so it's one that just look at all the Thomas notes he just does.
Yeah. So actually, the taxi driver found the book and managed to return it to Del Toro. So Del Toro took this as a sign that this film has to be made.
Wow, what an Uber then.
Well, I'm glad he took the sign. So after we were introduced to the setting, it's a very remote mill next to some ancient ruins where this mother, this newly married mother and daughter, newly widowed and married mother and daughter who's expecting a baby, are staying with this terrible person under his protection, who's a very powerful person, and they can give them all the protection they need, but he's just pure evil. I mean, that's really what it comes out. So that night, those insects come back and they're freaking out the girl, and the insects, and then she decides she likes them. The insects kind of transform into fairies, then, which are I would say much more Shakespearean fairies than the one you find in India Garden. And the fairies lead her to the ruins, where in the ruins, she learns her her story, who she is from. Let me just try and pull up the where's the there we are. She meets this gentleman, the fawn, who she says that she was a princess of the fairy realm, and then she ran away and she became mortal, and she came to the mortal world and she died. And she was going to be reborn at some point, and she would come back. The king of the fairy realm had left many portals open for her to return in, and this is the last of them. So the thorn gives her. She has 3 parts to perform before the solstice? No, before the moon. Before the full moon, so she can prove that she's really the princess, right? So they gives her this magic book, which will tell her everything that she needs to know what to do. So now we got this fancy element built into it, and let's go a little bit further. The very next day, her mother gives her this beautiful new green dress. I think I got a picture of it here. Let me find it. Firstly, she's told that she's a princess because she's got a moon birthmark on her shoulder. Which, again, listen, if you're watching this as it's the fantasy she's going through, she always knew about it, and she's like play acting with it. If not, I'm just trying to find. Oh, here's a dress. Yeah, so she gets this very coveted, very expensive dress. But she's led to go to this place underneath a tree to confront this tree over here to confront a monstrous toad. So she can vanquish the toad, and the tree can then thrive again. And you know what? Let's stop there and before we go any further.
Rabbi,
Get the key.
Rabbi, I have to mention the toad. I have to bring the tone up a bit after I brought it down with my confession there. The bit with the toad, that was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It was utterly disgusting and amazing. The toad. Yeah, so there's these giant insects crawling around in the under. So I'll go a little bit further. Then she doesn't want to get her new dress dirty. She takes it off and hangs it on the tree, and she's climbing through the mud and the gunk, and it's just disgusting. Right? And
so eating pizza. Yeah.
What I'd love to see, Rabbi, being as like Del Toro is like he creates everything and illustrates everything, and all this wonderful production design. I would love to see him storyboard and make into live action or animation in this way. That story of when you shat on the tortoise. Amazing.
Okay, now I have to explain to anybody who hasn't seen before.
Not again. Flashbacks.
On my way home after a very drunken evening, and I very much needed to relieve myself, to defecate. I have a theory that the closer you get to your toilet, the closer you get to peeing or pooing on yourself. If you're in right. So I got a few doors away. I wasn't going to make it. I hopped over a neighbour's fence and I.
No.
Okay, so then I got back.
I can't even keep it straight face. He hasn't even got to the pad yet.
Like grocery man. And I got my lighter out. I turned around. I wanted to scoop it up, be a cleanly guy, and the poo had vanished. Okay, completely vanished. So I was looking around for it, and eventually I'm like, I'm going home. The next day, I saw the neighbor, and he wasn't happy. He wasn't a happy person. I was like, what's up? Why you want, like what's going on? He said, you'll never guess what happened last night. I'm like, no, I won't guess. I won't guess at all. He said, somebody took a crap on my
oh God, no way!
We have a little aside to fill in.
This is of course an allegory.
Hopefully he's not watching.
Yeah.
He's been dead for 15 years. I think I'm safe. I'll just say, listen, it happens. The toad, the monstrous toad. She's crawling through all the gunk, and there's these giant beetles crawling all over her. And she finds out the toad likes the beetles, so she holds one of the beetles, and she's got these 3 rocks she's got to get the toad to swallow, which he does. And then he does this like massive growth appears in his throat and grows and and comes out of him, leaving him deflated and dead. And then she climbs back out the tree. While she's gone, the wind has blown her dress away. It's covered in mud. She makes it back in the middle of a very, very swanky dinner party where where everybody in the country is on like starvation rations, and she's in trouble. Okay, fine. So that's a good stopping point. No, do you have any thoughts other than the tortoise? Do you have any thoughts on this part of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, this scene is absolutely fantastic, actually. When she crawls in, and as you said, she's crawling through the mud, and then she figures out that she basically has to feed it. And then when she does, this crap comes out of its mouth, and it shrinks. And then she picks up the key because she needs the key.
Yeah, I'll see this. I'm glad we have a panel. Yeah, you're absolutely. There's a magic key she finds in there. That's correct.
And then doesn't she leave then? And when she comes out, then it's dark, isn't it? And then the dress is being destroyed. And
although
this movie is actually quite even the start of it. As you were all saying, the scene where he catches the son and the father poaching, basically, if that's what you want to call it. and he smashes the sub. When I first seen that, like I wasn't even expecting that.
Well, that's why it's so powerful. You're like,
yeah, and then you see this girl, and then you're saying, "Oh, damn, she's going to move in there." Holy, you know, I was thinking, "Oh, this girl's in for it." Like, but visually fantastic. Listen, I get where Dan's coming from, because when I first seen this movie, with the subtitles, I couldn't watch and read the subtitles at the same time. I actually found it very, very hard. But visually, it's that good that you were still able to follow the story. But as I kept watching it over the years, I got used to the subtitles. Now I can't watch it without the subtitles. But I get where Dan is actually coming from. I mean, there's another movie that I like. It's a subtitle movie. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Dead Snow. It's I think it's a Swedish or Norwegian film. It's about Nazi zombies. Like, so yeah, that's in subtitle.
Wait, I have to ask you about this movie. Were they Nazis that became zombies, or were they regular people were killed, became zombies, and then decided we want to be National Socialists?
No, there's a whole backstory. There were Nazis that found basically some treasure that was basically cursed, and it basically turned them into zombies. And then these group of kids go on holiday to this skiing resort, and then all hell breaks loose. And yeah, there's chainsaws and all involved, and guts being ripped out and stuff. So if you're into that sort of movie, Dead Snow, I'd actually recommend for the next. So I know Dan said he's finished with subtitles, but Dan, you won't even need to see the subtitles, because this is a comedy. This is a comedy, man. This will make you absolutely laugh. I'm telling you, it's actually pretty good. Rabbi, check it out first, and then see if you think it's a good recommendation.
So,
Okay.
Now I'll write it down how it's written, right? Because it's written this way. They're
so
written.
Pirates of the Caribbean with a twist.
Yeah, that's what it sounds.
Just thinking it looks like some sort of
trailer out. Check the trailer out. I'm not saying now, but check the trailer out later on. I'm telling you, it's something you'd really enjoy.
It's only just struck me looking at this picture, the Alice in Wonderland kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
The aesthetic. It's such a sophisticated performance that this girl gives in this. Easily the equal of the adults in the.
Oh, she's fantastic in this movie. I mean, I've never seen her in anything but like, if this was her first acting role, I don't know if it was, but I mean, yeah, she is on par, if not even better than the adults in this movie, to be honest, because the movie kind of, it focuses, I've noticed the movie was very clever because it focuses on her, but it also focuses on the captain, right? So you're seeing the kind of good and evil kind of play out through the movie.
Very gradually come through.
Good.
No, I've got some good news for you. There's a Dead Snow 2, if you didn't know.
Oh, there's a Dead Snow 2 and 3. Yeah, I haven't seen part 2 or 3, but part 1 apparently is the best one. But yeah, it's a good movie, I'm telling you.
Okay. Dead Snow 3 probably won't make it to the video vault. Sorry.
Dead Snow, I think it won one of those film festivals. I think it was not Cannes, but there was one of the other ones.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't think Dead Snow won the Palme d'Or.
I think it might have been Sundance. And do you know what I think it was? I think it was Sundance. Is that the other one? Sundance.
That is. I don't know. I have to check it out, but that is. Yeah. Listen, in Sundance, it's a very, very high altitude, so people were like, a bit lightheaded.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Listen, I will check it out. But
Scream Awards.
This whole bit, everything up to the gruesome toad scene. Have you do you have any thoughts that you'd like to skip in?
Yeah, I just love the whole fairy tale element, because I know this was Del Toro designed it to be a fairy tale for grown-ups, but there's so many references, like Dan mentioned Alice in Wonderland, what Mega Geek mentioned about the grading. It made me think of the Wizard of Oz, where it's all the real world, is in black and white, and then you get to Oz and there's all this beautiful colour, and I feel it even has red shoes at the end.
Right.
Darren
Yeah.
Payne, so I think that was a definite reference.
Right. Right.
And the frog scene. There were the little kids' books by Beatrix Potter. Purple Valkyrie will know about
Oh,
this.
yes.
And there was a couple of stories where there was one called Tom Kitten, and he's this little kitten, and he's dressed up in like a pinny, like what Ophelia's got on, and he's got to look his best. And they all go off and go into the mud, and it completely gets destroyed, and they get into trouble. And then there's also a story where there's this giant frog who invades this house of this little mouse.
I remember that.
And, it's just all these references. And, even the toad itself, you've got like Wind in the Willows and retrieving the key from the, it's like a really sick version of Sword in the Stone, retrieving the sword. And it's all of it just spoke to me. I'm like, oh, yeah, I can see where he's got this. And he's been influenced by that. And but then, putting this twist on it for adults. And I also loved how that scene, it was pretty horrific anyway with the grotesque frog, but then it's cut in between Captain Vidal and his soldiers going after the rebels.
Oh, yeah.
In the woods, and now how it keeps going back and flitting. And I just thought that, that was really well done.
Right, absolutely. Let me ask you, the way how do you watch this movie? Do you watch this as it's a fairy tale or it's a fantasy, or it's real? How do you process it? It's personal.
I choose to see it as a fairy tale, but I'm kind of drawn to them kind of films. So when I saw the trailer, and yes, the voiceover is absolutely terrible. It made me think of like Labyrinth and Neverending Story and those kind of legends. And I love all them kind of movies anyway. So that's how I.
The legend and Labyrinth.
See, for me, the fantasy sequences were a lot less than I imagined they would be, and whilst it screamed to me more of Tarantino and that brutality that Purple Valkyrie was talking about earlier on. Those scenes, that's what really stayed with me. So obviously that proves that it's got something for everybody. But yes, the fairy tale for grown-ups thing, that's the byline I've heard for this movie since it was made 15 years ago or whatever. And so it delivered in some respects for me. But it was the brutality of it. Increasing amounts of it were spent in the real world, and with that sort of grotesque. I mean, they leave you in no uncertain terms that man is a massive wanker.
Yeah.
there's no other way. So he's like, and I suppose you could say that it's a sort of a pantomime villain type character, but again, because it's written and played in a very,
it's an archetype.
Because yes, very well put. But because he's neither written nor performed in a superficial way, again, it's also sophisticated. That it hides the framework.
See, I don't see this as a fantasy at all. I see it's her fantasy, but I don't see it as when I first heard about this film and I really wanted to see it, and I bought it thinking it was a fantasy, but it isn't. It's all in her head. It's an allegory, and I think because what we're seeing here in this first scene is the setup. It's a cruel trick being played on the audience to think this is a fantasy, but it's really her escape. And
you have to choose. You have to choose which ending you want, right? This is the whole point of the film.
That's what I thought. It's like Inception.
You choose to
I see
believe
more
that it
futility
was.
in it.
Yeah, you choose to believe it was a fantasy in the girl's head. I choose to believe that it was real.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. The way I read into it is that this is
they put in that makes it possible to go really either way.
Yeah, but I tend to see it as
the audience interpretation. If
that's how great the film is.
Lee sees it as in her head, that's great. If people see that it was not in her head,
I'm looking at the reality.
I believe that it was in her head. To be honest with you, I actually thought it was because you see her die at the end.
Yeah, but that's what's great about the film is it makes you choose, right? You either believe that it was all in her head or it was actually true.
Yeah.
That when she died, that's when she became the princess.
Yeah, like her death, her innocent blood.
I think that's her death, her dying brain. I think that she's so far
that's
gone into the fantasy.
that means yeah. I mean that means that's
That's
what
a
you
really
do. I'd like
depressing end to
believe.
a film,
Yeah,
though.
exactly.
Well, I think
I'd
it
like
is.
to
I mean,
believe.
it's about the futility of war, the futility and the savagery
Yeah.
of war, and all of these projections are her fantasy being fractured, and it's like that's why when you see like things like the toad thing, already her mind is disturbed because that in itself as a fantasy, from what she's reading, is not what she's reading. She's going to be reading something like Alice in Wonderland and things like that, and Beatrice Potter, and she's reading these, but she's projecting these ideas, but she's got so much damage already from what she's seen.
Right,
This is already fractured.
I think it's talking about the futility of war. I think it's how this little
Well,
girl.
I think it is.
I think Lee's onto something. They talk a lot about the blood of the innocent.
Sorry.
Yeah, it is. Everything in this is an allegory. It's very clear. Look, it's about the Spanish Civil War.
Yeah.
The fascist guy, he represents how Spain is. The mother represents Mother Spain.
Yeah.
She's giving birth to the next generation. She's fallen under the spell of this guy, and she's allowed him to take control of her.
That's
right. She's weakened, so she's sick. She's got a sickness. He is making her sickness worse, and she goes to him. She's going to marry this guy. She's going to be with this guy, and it's like Spain giving itself over to fascism. And what she represents
really
is innocence.
I hadn't thought of that at all before. That's really interesting.
But this is the good thing about it. This movie has so many different layers that you can interpret it whatever which way you want to. But that is a very good interpretation there. Like, I mean, that would make sense. Like, and that ending would actually make more sense. Yes, it is a kind of a sad ending, but remember, the son is being handed. He hands the son over.
She's a martyr at the end of the film. She represents martyrdom. That's the innocence. Going through the hero's journey, standing up for what's right, doing the right thing, saving her brother, and then giving her life, giving her blood.
So you choose to believe that she died and it was all in her head. I choose to believe that it was real, and the evil does exist and it was real. And she
evil is real, absolutely. But it's you can't escape it. You can't escape reality. Reality is harsh, it's cold, and it kills you. And
who says you can't escape reality? Who says you can't escape reality?
Yeah. She does, obviously, in this film, but he still gets killed.
And she did. She escaped reality, and she ended up where she wanted to be in the end. I believe in the good ending.
In an afterlife, yeah. I mean, the Catholic afterlife. You know, Spain is a Catholic country, so maybe it's a return to the kind of idea of returning to the mother and the father. Because like if you see like the mother and father are the god, like the fairy kings, king and queen. Yeah, so she sits by the side of her father to rule in heaven. That's where she is. She's going back to the old country ways, the traditional ways of Catholic Spain.
There's one plot point. There's only one plot point I can think of. I'll come to you next, Father Man. There's one plot point I can think of that torpedoes the idea that the fantasy isn't real. Is that towards the end of the movie, she's locked in a room and she gets out of it by drawing a chalk door, and that's the other, when Mercedes goes in to rescue her, she's already left, and they just see the outline of a chalk door drawn. So maybe she snuck out another way, but that's the only thing that
we never see her draw it, and we never see her leave there, do we? We just see them discover the chalk line.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just going back over that. I can't quite remember.
I was just gonna jump back a little bit. You know, the whole idea, I thought the story was the soul would return, and even though I don't know if I spoil it, but I mean, even though the body is still there, the soul returns.
Yeah, it's a good ending.
I don't think so. I really don't. Spiritually, yes, but otherwise, no.
I agree with you. It's an optimistic ending, even
with
that.
So do I. Yeah. Sorry, go
which
ahead.
is interesting, which is very interesting. So, do we have the Mandrake scene next, or do we have a go on a next mission? I can't remember, and I watched it 2 hours ago.
The frog scene we just did, didn't
The
we?
frog scene,
Frog scene? Yeah.
Yeah, we just hit the top
Strikey.
scene, so we're on the next scene now where she comes out.
Oh, right. So
she
the
falls
next
and
You
she
return
goes
with the ruined
back
dress.
to the house to her mother, and her mother says, "What you doing to me?" Blah blah blah. Oh,
Right.
but you're going to that scene. All right.
Blah blah blah.
Well, I'm saying that
Blah 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 blah.
Etc. Etc. Etc.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my way. It's easier.
Okay. So okay, she's got her next mission is she's got a piece of chalk and she has to draw a door, draw a door on a wall. Then she magically enters
Escape.
the door, and she enters into this. I think this is the most famous part of the movie. This deeply horrific table full of all this incredible food with this emaciated figure. This like starving to death figure.
My favorite scene.
This scene is absolutely fun. Oh man, I loved it.
Don't eat it.
I know that's the whole point of this scene. She's being tempted here with all that food, and Vaughn basically told her that whatever you do, or is it the fairies that said don't eat the food?
The temptation of evil.
They even tried to take the food off her. This scene is brilliant. Oh my God.
So she goes in there. She's got a couple of 3 or 4 fairies go with her. She gets the thing but then she stops and gets a couple of grapes on the way out. And I do like how all the food, when you see it a little bit close up, is kind of rotting. When you see her take the grape, you see the pomegranate, and it all looks kind of like a bit gnarled but still edible. She eats it, and that wakes this monster up, who for some reason puts his eyes in his hands and looks very scary and starts chasing her. So
you're not doing that scene justice.
I know.
It's much more than just that.
It's a brilliant scene. It's absolutely brilliant scene. It's wonderfully designed. The creature looks really scary.
Yeah.
The girl is just amazing in that scene. And when he's chasing her, you really want her to escape. It's a fantastic scene.
Yeah,
fantastic scene.
So some of the imagery is like, again, I was really struck when I saw it today. There were all these there was these big giant boxes of all these like children's shoes there, right? And it just reminded me of the of Auschwitz, the stuff you see.
I think that was the whole point, though, Rabbi. I think because remember, this was Franco's Spain as well. A lot of that was going on in Spain as well. So that was to symbolize. That was deliberately done, to be honest with you. That was to symbolize the times that we were in, because it was happening in Spain as well. Like, so
it's the death of innocence, and the children of Spain being the first victims.
A small aside, tell you a personal story. This doesn't involve a tortoise. Last time,
are you sure? Are you sure it doesn't involve poo and the speedy tortoise? No,
not the tortoise. Last time I went to a hotel, which is before the pandemic, it was this absolutely gorgeous, like 5-star hotel in Jerusalem. That overlooks the old city. It was wonderful, and all my friends were going on a trip to Auschwitz at the time. I was like, "Are you out of your mind?" I said, "No, I'm going to 5-star." So I'm literally sitting in this pool, like drinking a frozen daiquiri or something, and I'm taking pictures of our relative vacation, and they're in that room with all the shoes. I think conversation.
Did you feel pangs of guilt?
No, I just thought they were stupid and I was smart.
I even feel a bit bad laughing to this story. To be honest with you, I've been trying to hold it in, but listen, but again, this is what this movie is very good at doing. It, like Sarah mentioned it as well, it pays homage to, you can see that he has been inspired by other things, but also real world events he has also been inspired by, and it has included them in this movie. It's just absolutely fun. This scene is just, when I first seen this scene, I didn't know what was going to happen, but when he puts the eyes into his hand and then puts his hands up and does that and then starts what I was like, oh yeah, this is the type of man. Yeah, it is. Yeah. But that's what you want, absolutely. And she's oblivious because she's there like trying to eat the grape. And there's the little fairies trying to take the grape. And then he goes and proceeds then to actually sever their heads off a couple of fairies.
He eats
and don't forget the forbidden fruit. Forbidden fruit. Again, another religious...
would the fairies be like guardian angels?
Yeah. They are, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they had that function, I guess.
Yeah.
I think they did, yeah. They were protecting
relationship with fairies. They in what was it? Hellboy 2?
Yeah,
the
definitely.
Fairies. And they're about the same size as the teeny tiny little things, right? He's got a really bizarre thing with fairies. I don't know what it is, but he does. But yeah. So, anybody else have any thoughts on this? Central iconic sequence.
No, I mean, the monster is just so scary. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then when you have a wide shot of him, he's got those spindly legs as he's walking. It's just something that's come out of your nightmare. You know what I mean?
It's like their flesh is hanging off him. It's like amazing. Again, I just think his real like Holocaust. Iconography, whatever you mean, Holocaust looking stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, it's also worth noting that he's played by the same actor that plays the Fawn. So both monsters are played by Doug Jones.
Yeah. I never knew that. No.
So wait, who plays the Fawn? It's not Doug Jones.
It is Doug Jones. Yeah.
Doug Jones. He uses Doug Jones in a lot of his stuff, doesn't he?
Wow, that's amazing. Because both characters are absolutely fantastic. Like you only get to see this creature for how long? What, 5 minutes in total? But it's.
Is there some symbology there that he's got? Supposedly the good guy and supposedly the evil guy playing by. I mean, is this like just one big mind trick? Again, I think it's so projected.
Unfortunately, Doug Jones got dragged into Discovery. Let's face it. What a poor chap.
What
a climb down that is.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Rabbi?
He's by far the best thing in Discovery, but not like he's got much.
It's the only thing in Discovery.
I've just had to see something on Twitter that's just had to making me laugh. So Eddie of Scarrow Talk the Doctor just put up: is Barrowman back with Eccleston still a secret, or has it been leaked yet?
Oh, is he?
It's a well-known thing. Barrowman is back for Series 13. He's not just coming back for the Vestive. He's one of the main companions.
Who cares? Who cares
anymore? Graham and Tolton Graham and what's his name? Ryan are gone, so they need to replace them. So Captain Jack.
If they had Tom Baker come back stark naked, I still wouldn't watch it.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe.
I don't want to get into it. We just forget about it anyway. But all I will say, it's ridiculous. Like Christian thinks these are all secrets, and everybody knows.
John Barrymore should be ashamed of himself going.
I don't blame him.
I never
for money.
He is.
I was just going to say, is he hurting for money?
Yeah, he must be. Well, he's not in Arrow anymore, is he?
I don't think so, but I'll just briefly say I think it's because he's trying to get Torchwood back, and I've no problem with that. So we'll drop it because this is the real.
Back to Past Labyrinth, and if you like ginger, this might put you off a bit.
That poor thing got burnt in the fire. My God.
That was.
It looks a bit like a baby, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like an old puppet. From
not who hasn't seen this will have a rough idea. The mother's pregnancy is going very bad, and the fawn gives her this mandrake root and says, "Put it under your mother's bed with milk and give it 2 drops of blood a day, and it'll make her feel good." So that you get this root looks exactly like a piece of ginger. And she puts it in the bowl of milk under her bed, and it turns into, and it like acts like a baby. It curls up and stuff, and suddenly the mother starts getting better. But before that, she has this like very There's a ton of blood because that she's from. What's it? It's not ectopic breast. She looks like she's going to lose a pregnancy. So something that I noticed there that this blew me away was this book that she has, that the girl has, opens up, and when the mother starts to lose a baby, it like fills up with blood, but it fills up with blood in roughly the same shape as this tree over here, which is also echoes in the shape of the
blood of the ancestors.
Well, the other thing too.
So
yeah, it's also the shape of a womb.
Yeah, I was going to say also uterus. It's like
uterus, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Mother Spain again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would probably. So the captain basically tells the doctor if it's between the baby or the wife, choose the baby.
Yeah, but you knew that. I mean, like honestly, that at that point that didn't surprise me.
He didn't even respect his wife. Look at the scene where at the dinner table and she's telling everybody how they met, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry about my wife. She doesn't realize that people don't like these silly stories." It was like
very, very demeaning.
He only cared for her because of the baby, because he knew he was he obviously thought he was going to have a son, and that's all he cared about.
Yeah, exactly. It was basically an incubator for her. Although you did get the vibe that he found when he was getting his uniforms made by ex-husband. I got the kind of feeling that his death wasn't completely unrelated to him. Right?
Yeah.
Set that up.
But he's obviously fancied the other girl, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, the mother.
Mercedes. I think he started after the woman died. Then wasn't there a scene where he was kind of flirty with her, but at the same time, well, the key went missing. The lock was opened with a key, and I've got the only copy, or do I? It was basically a veiled threat, letting her know. Well, I basically know that there's someone in here up to something, and I'll find out. And he actually does. Like
he's very, very sinister.
He is brilliant. He is brilliant.
You do not want to mess with this guy.
No,
great
you wouldn't.
Performance. Great performance by that guy. Absolutely brilliant.
Very threatening. Very threatening.
There he is. There, he has a bit of Sean Pertwee to him, doesn't he? At certain angles.
Yeah, I can see it there. Yeah.
Has he been in anything else? Because again, I don't know any of the cast at all.
This particular actor is actually known for being a comedy actor in Spain.
Really?
Yeah. So he was actually a really controversial.
Well, he was very funny in this film, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I love the scene where he smashed a man's face in with a rock. That was so funny.
No, it was the bit with the bottle. That got me. My God,
that was hilarious.
Horrible. Yeah, very funny.
Really,
I think it just proves that comedians can tap into the darker side. I mean,
look at Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey,
Robin
Williams.
If you look at a lot of comic actors, they're very good at doing very serious roles.
But you know why they're good at it? Because they have all this dark energy inside them. They have all these dark thoughts inside them. A lot of these comedians are basically tormented in their own heads. So when they do these series, I mean, 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams is probably one of the greatest movies. We know Jim Carrey did one. He did number 23 or 23, whatever that is. He also did the Truman Show. That was semi-serious. No, they're still, but he could prove that he could do it. Adam Sandler did one. Actually, he did one called Rain on Me or something. He loses during 9/11. He was a fireman, and he's basically gone through torment. And it's a beautiful movie. The end of it is just absolutely fantastic, and it's probably one of his best movies. I have to be honest with you.
But you don't get many straight actors. I mean, straight in the sense of straight acting. God, I'm just digging myself into a further hole. But you know what I mean? Like, serious actors doing serious roles. Not, hello, darling. You don't get many of them successfully transplanting themselves into comedy. I mean, some you can, like, people like Joanna Lumley, for example. She's great at comedy. And who'd have guessed, she'd always done sort of serious, sexy, savage woman, sort of karate. you know, this kind of stuff, and everyone sort of saw her as being too posh to do any sort of lower things like comedy and stuff like that. But she surprised people, you know, with how she could do it. So I think, you know, it's a rare gift, but I think there has to be sort of a certain intellect and a certain depth that I think you have to have to do comedy. You have to have an element of pathos, and for that you must have a depth of feeling.
Right.
And I think that can come through in, you know, obviously in this guy's performance. I mean, he channeled something.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know,
maybe he wants to not channel it so much.
Well, if you want to get paid and do a good job, yeah.
But you know, with all the monsters in this film, the bit that really did get me was when he got his mouth cut and he was sewing it up. Oh,
right.
Yeah. Oh. He looked a bit like the Joker, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
I actually marked that down.
Yeah, very joking. Fine, so let's catch everybody up with the plot. So essentially, well, there's lots to catch up before we get there. The partisans in the communists in the forest are being hunted by him. There's a cat and mouse game going on. We find out that the governess who runs the estate, the house, is in cahoots with the communists, who you just like now because they're not this guy, so they're like, okay, anybody but this guy is good. And it's her husband or a lover. You can't tell what. So then during a skirmish, one of the partisans gets captured, and it's a guy who they established earlier has a stammer, and so then you know he's going to be. You don't see it, but you know there's going to be a horrific torture scene go on. There's a doctor there that's also working for the communists as well, like trying to get them medical aid. So after this guy's been tortured for a long time, and then he's in very rough shape, they call the doctor in to keep him alive, and the doctor gives him an overdose of sedative, so he won't say anything. And from that moment onward, things start to unravel for the captain. He shoots the doctor just as his wife goes into labor. She goes into labor because he finds the mandrake root and is disgusted by it, and he's going to beat the daughter or something. And the mother says, "No, let me talk to her." And she says, "You got to forget all these ideas of magic." And she throws the mandrake root onto the fire, and it like screams and it burns to death. And that's why she starts having her miscarriage stroke pregnancy. But the doctor's not there. Any thoughts on thus far? Anybody wants to chime in?
Well, I was going to say, I think Mercedes and the guy are brother and sister, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that's interesting. Very good. I didn't realize that.
It says that in the subtitles. Yes, she says my brother.
Oh, you see, I was too busy looking at the stuff. That's right. You're backing up Dan there. So they get the army medic to help the labor. The mother dies, as you just knew the mother is going to. So this poor girl has lost her father. And I think a lot of her motivation her subconscious motivation for the movie is her longing for her father. Like this, you get the feeling that her father was the more creative one that she was related to. Her mother is in a different universe. Doesn't relate to her at all. But she's her last lifeline, and then she loses that last lifeline, and it's absolutely tragic. The captain finds out that Mercedes is is helping the communists, and they capture her, and I think, oh my god, she's going to be equally tortured. And he has this line, this is with feminism done right. This is feminism done right, where he says, she's only a woman, and she's obviously the most capable person, on this. I think she's probably, I would say she's the most capable character in this movie. Would we agree with that? You think or not?
I agree.
I think so.
Okay, fine. And she has this thing of she keeps her sharp knife folded into her clothes, and so she's tied up, and the captain's like pontificating how he's going to yeah, how she's going to break in. Meanwhile, she's just cutting out of a bond, right? She's cutting herself out, and her back's to him, and he's talking away. Suddenly, he feels this pain in the back, and she stabs him in the shoulder blade. And he turns around and stabs her in his chest as well. Still doesn't die, and she says, "Don't touch the girl, because I'll gut you like a pig." You're not the first one of those. She puts the knife in his mouth, and she's cut the side of his mouth, very Joker-esque, right? And which leads to him later, like having to sew up his.
That's horrible. That bit.
Yes,
that really is horrible.
It's like, because at school, I remember there were always these sort of urban myth stories that we all believed as school kids. You know, if you did anything, if you went to like a specific place, whatever, there was these guys hanging around with flick knives, and they did this Chelsea smile on your face with a knife. You know, like slice.
Yeah, I've never seen it done in like actually somebody do something like that in real life.
Yeah, it's just one of those urban myths that you get told as a kid, so you're always on the lookout for these buggers with knives who are gonna.
Also, do you remember the scene where he beats up the guy in the barn, and then the doctor comes along, and he looks terrible. The makeup's amazing on that guy. He looks like he was beaten with a bat or something, and then he gives him that injection. I'd just like to point out the bit when he kills the doctor. He shoots him, and he carries on walking. And then he takes his glasses off, and then he just falls to his knees. And that in itself is horrific when you think about it, isn't it? It really
very
did get
hyper
to me.
real. I think that's the juxtaposition between the hyper real
and the fantasy
thing that's going. I mean, it's so much more crazy than the actual fantasy. So I think this is why you got this which is crazier, which is worse, which is I mean, like. In terms of losing yourself, I mean, she's losing herself in both realities, that she's finding herself in.
But it's interesting because this film is, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Their scene has so much dignity in it, right? Which is saying that this guy wants to strip away from everyone, strip their dignity away, and he's unable to do it. Sorry, I didn't try. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. I'm just saying that this film is a masterpiece, and I don't say that lightly either. I mean, it really is a great movie, and it makes your emotions right all the way through. The ending made me feel like Von Ryan's Express. Remember Von Ryan's Express when he's running through the train, and he's the hero throughout, and he gets shot in the back, and that's it. End of story. And the ending, when I don't know if you noticed, guys, when he shoots the girl at the ending, you don't see her get shot. You hear the noise, and the shot is below the frame, and then she just falls out of frame. So you don't see any blood until she's on the ground.
I thought that was curious.
Yeah, it was really every shot in this film, and as I said, I don't say this lightly, was thought of. The lighting, the makeup, everything, and it's a masterpiece. This film is a masterpiece, and it should be celebrated as such, which it isn't really when you think about it.
It's so underrated, and it's shocking. I think this is sort of Western.
It is,
I mean, English-speaking prejudice.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think it was up for some Oscars.
Yeah, it was, but obviously the West. They
should have won one Best Picture. Let me have a look, see what won Best Picture they.
It did win a lot of awards, but what I'm saying is that when they talk about classic films now, they never mention this film. Citizen Kane, blah, blah, this, that, the other, but they never mentioned this film, and this film should be up there.
Oh my God!
A masterpiece.
It's still the prejudice against fantasy films.
Exactly.
That is still there.
But it's not.
Sorry, go ahead.
Best Picture in 2006, the year this came out. Crash.
That's what I'm saying. It's not celebrated enough.
This is as literate as Problem Beings mentioned. This is as literate as Crash. It's probably more so.
Yeah, it is. It's much better than Crash.
Yeah. Crash was okay, but it was like it was a very hot topic topic at the time.
No, it was just LA sort of just patting itself on the back. That's what Crash was all about. But this film is an amazing movie. Everything about this movie. Yeah,
I mean,
everything about this movie is great.
When you mention Pan's Labyrinth, everyone says something positive about it. I've never come across anyone who's had anything negative to say about it.
Yeah.
But if you bring up Crash, The only people think of, or when I think of Crash, I think of a film where people are getting off in a car crash.
that's the other Crash.
That's exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think of the other Crash. I don't even think about the one that won any awards. But that's the thing. I don't think of Crash. I don't think of that as a classic film. I don't think of that as an Oscar-worthy film or anything like that.
Well, there's a lot of bias in Hollywood, isn't there?
Absolutely.
That's why it won.
Yeah,
that's why Crash won.
Hollywood is Hollywood. Yeah.
That's corrupt anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, the picture we got up here is when the captain realizes that the doctor has been helping them because he's found some antibiotics by the partisans in the woods, and he sees it's the same vial. He's not only just very, very evil and completely without morality. He's very clever as well, which makes him so terrifying.
Psycho. Complete
so
psycho.
we're in the final reel, and the fawn tells the girl to get her brother, which is a whole thing that she's got to sneak it out from behind his back. She puts some of the her mother's.
Oh, you forgot the bit where the fawn told her not to eat the fruit, and she did, so he wasn't going to give her. No, we did do that. I missed that bit. I must have zoned out. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah. That was a long time ago. The guy came alive by us. Whole thing, right? We did that. So anyway, she's drugged the captain. There's a wonderful scene after he just sewn up his lip, right? And he's put some gauze over it and some tape, and then he gives himself he has a drink, and you see the alcohol bleed through the cut.
Yeah, that made me wince.
Oh, that was a real tapping the nerve bit. So, but she managed to put some of her mother's sleeping draft in there into his drink, and he drinks it, and she stills the baby, but he's drugged and he's coming after her. They end up in the labyrinth, Pan's labyrinth. And apparently there needs to be a blood sacrifice. Some innocent blood needs to be spilled. The fawn wants to use her baby brother. She refuses. Essentially, this guy finds her, takes the brother, and as Maggie says, he points his gun at her and shoots her. You don't see the shot, but you see her reach up and the blood on her fingers, and she's mortally wounded. And then you can read it one or two ways. The blood activates the portal that sends her into fairy paradise, which is so much nicer a way of looking at it.
But that was the innocent blood that they needed, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And she enters into the fairy world, or this is her dying moments, and then we have a little post.
She enters into the fairy world. That's what I believe.
Oh, you such a child. Honestly.
I'm with you, Ian. I'm totally with you.
I want to hear what Purple Valkyrie thinks. If I'm right or if Ian's right, what do you think?
There's no right.
No, there is a right, and I'm right.
Listen. Even though I agree with Lee, right? Lee, this movie is open to interpretation. You cannot
no, it isn't.
You cannot be forcing your view on other people.
Don't care.
I agree with Lee.
Fascism, remember that.
I agree with Lee.
They're acting like Franco now.
But that's the beauty of the film, right? That's the beauty of the film. You can take whatever side you want, and that's why it's a masterpiece.
It's irresponsible to think that this is a happy ending.
No, I think that you're absolutely right, Lee. I think you're right, Lee, about what this film is about and what it's saying. But I think the conclusion that it reaches that is what's open to interpretation.
Right.
That is the question. That is what is left hanging. So I don't think anybody's wrong.
No,
No.
Purple, was it? Purple, did Del Toro film it with a particular, message in mind, or did he deliberately film it so it would be open to interpretation?
He kept it so it was open to interpretation. For me, it depends on what mood I'm in. If I'm in a dark mood, then I just go for yes. It was all in her head.
And that's why it's a masterpiece, because that's brilliant, right?
Plays on your mood swing. That that's very Purple Valkyrie. I'd agree with that 100%. Actually,
Yeah, if I'm in an optimistic mood, yes, she becomes the princess that she always was.
I still see it as a religious allegory that she's going to heaven, and like her fantasy, her projection of the father and the mother in heaven, as fairy king and queen, is that she's going to sit by, the archetypal father in heaven and the mother in heaven. It's, for me, it's cut and dry. I'm sorry, that's how I see it.
Yeah. Okay, Lee, I do agree with you with that bit, because if you notice, the brother's still alive.
They're wearing the red as well.
Yeah, and all the fairies are back alive as well. So yeah, there is.
She saved them all.
But
Yes.
There you go.
It's worth noting as well, as the film goes on, that the fawn looks younger. So his horns healed, his colours brighten.
Right, I can't believe I missed that.
It's a return of nature and hope.
Right, when they first find him, he's like a bit that he's in the moss of the that's on the side of the wall of the abandoned labyrinth.
I love how they kill him though. They shoot him in the face. That was just like I cheered.
It's, come up and it's like again.
What a face to shoot!
Like, he's like, tell me, son, your son won't know anything about you. Bang!
I love that line.
He's got a face only a mother could shoot.
So this guy's motivation all through the movie was that how his son would relate to him as a father, and he's obviously got a lot of father issues going on. Like the story, you hear a story about his father smashing a watch, which you kind of guess is true, but he denies it. Because he's got.
No, it was true, but he fixed the watch. That was the thing.
Exactly.
The watch was broken, but he did fix the watch, because if you look at the watch was smashed. So he deliberately fixed the watch, because in his eyes, his father was a letdown, even though he was at the dinner table. He said his father was a great soldier.
He wants order.
He didn't believe that. He didn't believe he was brave. Himself, he thought he was what all men should be. That was the whole point of his character.
Order, and at any cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you guys can see, we're all talking about this, and we realize it now that this film is a masterpiece. We all realize it.
Absolutely.
Well done, Rabbi. This was a great choice. You picked a whopper. But I have to say, I don't know if the other panel have said that to you, but you know me, I don't hold back. What's your fascination with 2-hour movies, man?
And fantasy and escapism and dreams.
Movie, or say an hour and a half movie some other time.
I have one of them is a 90-minute movie, but we'll talk about when we get there. I just want to talk his final line. His final line was great, because he keeps saying, tell my son this about me, that about me. And him is fantastic. They say, he won't even know
your name.
And they shoot him in the face, but not in a fun part of the face. They shoot him right? And his eye rolls up a little bit before he collapses. And I hope he's.
Do you know what was realistic about that shooting in the face is that blood didn't splurt out like the US movies. The bullet went right in.
Face, and then the blood was coming.
Exactly.
Very good. Yeah,
it was very, very well done.
Yeah. I have to say the death scene in this, he didn't hold back. If they were, I don't imagine what it'd be like to see someone being shot in the face, but I say that was pretty close to what I would have looked like with a gun like that. But it's there's so many brilliant scenes. This is a masterpiece. I mean, look at the way we're all talking about in different ways. Like the movie means different things to everybody. It's just that they don't make many movies like this, but when they do, they're absolutely fantastic. And if this is underrated, I never knew this was underrated. This is underrated. What a shame. This deserves to be seen on the big screen again. Actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they're re-releasing movies.
I hope it's never remade into an English-speaking movie.
Yeah, they're going to remake Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, they
no.
are with Jamie Foxx and
Of course.
Chris Tucker.
What? They didn't get a woman of color? Oh my god!
Yeah, man. What's his name?
Will Smith. Will
Wait,
Smith.
we're talking about movies that we're not going to see. Let's go through the panel. your summation, Dan. What would you be your summation of this movie?
An absolute delight from start to finish. With one way or another. I mean, this is a masterclass in making movies. It's got the production design. It's sumptuous. The performances are on all sorts of different levels, no matter what the age of the cast. And let's face it, there's still people out there who, with good reason, wince whenever they see that a child is leading any film. But it's not an issue in this at all. Everybody's consistently brilliant. The story, it's got that old-fashioned thing that I think we all like, that we kind of like to bring back, of having a beginning, a middle, and an end. And although it is, we've talked already, I won't rake up all that, but with all those interpretations and with all that's going on, the fact that Del Toro is in charge of every single line, every single frame, you are being spellbound by this story. And that's why I wondered how long he'd had it in his head. But it's also tight. And in an age where films generally tend not to be, even things that are follies, where people have had them in their heads for a long time, it doesn't necessarily mean that they take the time to form them in such a complete way. And I think that arty-farty stuff out of the equation, this is a solid film that for the most part holds your attention, unless you're like me and can't concentrate on subtitles. The story is incredibly engaging. And I mean, you could say that who do you show this to? It's a fairy tale for adults or whatever. I suspect that although we could say this is, I'm not sure it is underrated. I think everybody who's seen it raves about it, but I think it's underwatched, underviewed.
Yeah, I think
exposed,
you're right.
And that could be because of perceptions of it as being a fairy tale, but you couldn't show this to your family. You couldn't have children watch this. It's absolutely out of the question. But it is unapologetic and I did try and get my daughter to watch it with me. It's uncompromising.
She told me when I was like showing her the trailer and telling her about it. Wait a minute, you tried to get me to watch this with you when I was 8.
It's uncompromising, and I think Del Toro had every right to take every element of this film to its extreme and to the conclusion that because it would demand, the story demands that, and with everything that the actors and the production staff, who I would imagine are people that he'd worked with before, and he probably works with them even now, it all just comes together so brilliantly. It's and I will certainly watch this film over and over and over again, but it will be dubbed. And it has made me, I've always loved Del Toro's work. Literally, I don't think I've seen anything of his that I haven't liked, although I haven't seen the one with the robots yet, no, granted that. And it is wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful. And this is easily the best film that we've been subjected to as participants.
Actually, I would give a shout out, Dan, for the Rabbi cut of Star Wars as well, because I was pretty impressed by that.
Yeah, I mean,
that movie has still left a bit of a mark on me.
That's good to hear. But I think Star Wars is so. I'd almost forgotten, because Star Wars is so much its own thing. That doesn't really. I mean, Star Wars is better than this. What about Temple of Doom? Beg your pardon?
What about Temple of Doom?
I think this is better than Temple of Doom.
You know what? Right, it's an underrated movie because it's foreign. If you look on IMDb, they tell you the top 10 classic movies, and this is
it's a combination.
Not in
It's
it.
being foreign, being a
Yeah.
fantasy, being uncompromising in the fact that it looks like a kids' film, but it's not. You know,
Yeah.
that's always going to hinder the market because you know the target audience, people are not going to know. Can I put it on yet, or have I got to wait until the kids have gone to bed? After the kids have gone to bed, I don't really want to watch it now. What else is on? You know that's all it really is. It's nothing that the film is doing wrong in itself. It's just a byproduct of what it is. And Del Toro would have had to make that decision whether to compromise or to not. He was absolutely right not to.
Yeah, I think thank God he didn't compromise.
Yeah, it's very underrated in my opinion, and that's very underseen as well.
Underrated. I'm actually shocked at that, to be honest with you, because I remember the first time I seen this movie, I was blown away by everything that everybody on the panel has spoke about. This movie has everything, so I'm actually shocked that it is. But I can understand it from Ian's point of view because, yeah, foreign movies don't tend to get the same kind of
reverence.
Yeah, as English speaking movies. That is changing now, but back then it wasn't the case. You know, these movies that were made, they were kind of a once-off treat sort of thing. You know what I mean? One in the blue moon, a subtitled movie would come along and blow the socks off people. But there's a lot of them out there. It's just, you know, only certain ones get highlighted, which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to mention something like a Shawshank Redemption, people know what that is.
Yeah.
If you were to mention this film, a lot of people would not know what this is
because you know who it's for. You know, it's a sad fact of reality. It's not you know exactly who Shawshank Redemption is for. You know, the audiences. You know, the pitch it. You know, it's
okay, like Shawshank Redemption doesn't really have a barrier to entry. This does. This is a movie you want to see. This is a movie you're going to go to the Cineplex and say, "What do you think? Yeah, shall we go and see it now?"
It's really funny how people see things into movies. Like I remember somebody was saying, Shawshank Redemption represents Christ, and when he goes through the tunnel, it's coming through, you know, evil, and then he comes out, and you must have heard that, Father. You must have heard that.
Oh yeah, the baptism,
and he's all full of muck and crap, and then he goes into the water and comes out. It's like a rebirth. Yeah.
And it's the same thing with this. When was Problem Being was saying, there's so many facets to this film, and that's what makes it brilliant in itself. I mean, Problem B sees it another way, I see it another way, Starry sees it another way, Father sees it another way, and that's the beauty of this film. And that's why, as I said, it's really underrated. Yeah, underrated. But anyway, that's just me, right?
Yeah, listen, I think there's no wrong opinions.
That's a great summary.
What's your wrong opinion?
It's an amazing film. It deserves more attention. I think it does tend to get left behind, and I think it is because of the barrier with the language and the subtitles. And the only film I can think of that had subtitles that seemed to get a lot of interest was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that with the English dub, and it just wasn't the same at all. So yeah, you're right. It just seems to be there's certain ones that seem to hit the spotlight, and unfortunately, I don't think this quite did. But I think, I mean, it's coming up to an anniversary soon, so maybe they'll re-release it at the cinema and it'll get a bit more love. But yeah, I think it's a very, maybe not quite a cult classic, but it's definitely niche.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely
This is the
love
only
it.
film I haven't chucked in the bin that Rabbi gave me.
Really?
No.
Temple of
I've
Doom's
got
awesome.
I've got my own copy of Temple of Doom. So I just But
Temple of Doom and Star Wars are so popular that everybody, you know, they're sort of in a different category than most of the things that we watched so far.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Purple Valkyrie. I'm sorry. Did you finish, or do you have
Yeah, I finished. Yeah.
So, Purple Valkyrie. What are your thoughts on the movie?
I love this film. I've loved it the first time I saw it, and it captivated me. And subsequent rewatching, it still holds my attention. Considering how long the film is, it's nearly 2 hours. It doesn't drag. It doesn't feel like there's any scene that isn't needed.
Purple Valkyrie, your voice sounds like you belong on BBC Radio. You have a voice that belongs at BBC Radio.
She's got an amazing voice.
That's a compliment.
Oh, thank you.
No worries.
Where were you in life when you first saw this Purple Valkyrie?
I was in school still. So this film's like 15 years old, so I was just coming kind of out of school. That kind of so I was that sort of age. And it's because the films are 15, it's not actually an 18. I think that's worth noting as well, even though
That's shocking,
it doesn't shy away from the violence. And I think to touch on what you were talking about earlier with the subtitles, Del Toro himself actually wrote all of these subtitles because he was adamant that he was going to have it translated the way that he wanted it.
Wow.
Wow, that's cool. Definitely. Problem being, what are your thoughts that you haven't shared with us already? If there's any,
well, I'll just tie it up into a nice little neat ribbon, I suppose. Well, for me, and I will stress,
she died.
Well,
being says she died. That was
we hear a lot about this being a fairy tale, a fantasy, and I say no, it isn't. I say what it is. What I say it is it's a socio-political horror.
You're too deep.
I don't care. It's an allegory. It's clearly a massive allegory to the horrors of the Spanish Civil War. It's so archetypal. She's definitely the martyr here. She represents the hope for Spain, and it withers on the vine if you allow this evil to spill the blood. And she had to give her blood in the end to set her people free. And she went to heaven. Her brain was shutting down. It's a tragedy. It is a tragedy, the tragedy of war. And she's the epitome of everything that happens within that kind of war. And, I think that she was stuck between two worlds. She wanted to escape, but she couldn't. The terror of what she was witnessing in the real life was almost as scary as what she was seeing in her fantasy. So she really couldn't escape it. But she did the right thing. She sacrificed herself for her brother, for the future. And she paid the ultimate price. And she got her place in heaven. That's how I see it. I'm not a religious person, but that's how I see it. I see it because obviously Spain is a Catholic country, so it's a return to the motherland. That's how I see it.
Yeah, very cool. That's a very good interpretation. Father Miller, not last but by no means least. What are your thoughts on this movie?
Well, I was going to say Spain's actually kind of fallen away from the faith a little bit. Not as much as Ireland, but anyway, I can't believe this was the first time I've seen the movie. I've heard of it. I always thought it was an American film. I didn't realize it was by Del Toro.
More often.
Yeah, well, I'm in a town of 500. The nearest biggest town is Denver, which is 4 hours away from me. So, but yeah. People are saying that it's underrated, but when I was looking at the Wikipedia after watching it, it made a lot of top 10 lists. Like Roger Ebert.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is when they talk about the classics, they don't mention this. In the Western world.
True, but the one movie I've been meaning to watch, I think part of the reason I haven't is the subtitle is Parasite. Which did win Best Picture this year.
Yes.
I mean, it's the first movie ever to win an Oscar for Best Picture like that. I mean, foreign film. So, but yeah, I like to see it again. I like to be able to take it in again, see what I've missed. Because again, I was just blown away by the whole thing. And I was left at the end wondering.
Yeah.
Did she really die or was it the soul returning? I don't know.
Yeah, she died.
But I enjoyed it.
Lewis is not going to give up on this one.
Nope.
Really.
She didn't die.
But I still love Blazing Saddles, so.
She died.
She didn't.
You two
I've got
lads
this
all
lovely
again.
image
You
now of.
know what? You two lads need to have it out on the internet now.
Everyone in the world agrees with me. So you
What you don't know is me and Problem B and we're brothers. So there you go.
Is it-
I know you don't want to do it. This was a great movie. Listen, Rabbi, great choice, man. I'm really glad you actually picked this movie because I was hoping that you liked this movie, that you would mention it someday when we were doing this because, yeah, listen, I was introduced, my little brother, I owe my little brother a lot here because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be watching subtitled movies because he went through a phase where he was checking when you could download, when you could, a time when you could do it, when you weren't supposed to do it. And he got all these foreign films he did. And basically he went through them all and then he'd write down a list of the ones that he thought were great. And this was the very first one that he actually showed me. And I was blown away. This is a masterpiece.
Absolutely. And it's okay to have a bad, miserable, shitty ending. It's okay. God to go to heaven. Okay.
Oh my God! You're just not going to give this up.
Well, everything has to have a happy ending, and that's the thing about fairy tales.
Holy. You'd be a terrible primary school teacher. You'd be sat there with all the little kiddies on the floor reading Hansel and Gretel. And they all
Look at
died.
the original Hans Christian Andersen. They were negative. Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales.
Thing because Spain is being reborn. The next generation.
Oh no!
The next film.
Oh no, this makes me cry.
I can't stand it.
Wow.
Choice of the movie. We did this one time before. It didn't work. We're trying it again. This is option number one. It's about a 2-hour movie. Option number two. Option number two. And with these are your only two options. Okay? And I don't care if you're not going back next week. You've just voted. Fine. And here's option number two.
Oh no.
So we have two very different style of movies. We'll start with
lightly.
We'll start with Father Miller. What would be your vote?
Surprise me.
No.
I've seen them both.
Okay.
I remember the last time I think I seen What Dreams May Come True. It was like 2 a.m. when I had food poisoning.
Well, this is film poisoning.
I don't know if I'd go that far. The one thing I do want to mention, problem being, have you seen Dr. Strangelove?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so that's one where there's not a happy ending.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's the reason why this is a masterpiece is because you've got that kind of nice little open ending for people to think on that level. That's great. It's all worked out well. I don't see it that way. I'm digging deep here. I'm like going, no. You don't get all that gritty stuff.
Well, since I am feeling like
it's just all okay. I don't think
that's never going to end because there's no right or wrong.
The term,
right.
I was going to say, so is the term one that like is the term.
Well, I don't know if I can sit through that awful film again.
Which one?
That's it. I'm not a fan of it. Gravity's all right.
Okay,
I guess.
So your vote is tentatively for Gravity. If it's a movie that you can't stand, you can take the week off. We're cool. Whatever.
No, I think you have to give it a fair go. I'll tell you what. I'll go for the opposite. I'll go for the one I don't like and see if I can find something in it that I do like.
God, just pick some bloody movie. It's either Gravity or it's the bleeding Robin Williams one.
I toss a coin for it. Go on, just toss the coin.
Wait.
I don't have a coin.
While they're thinking about it, what would your choice? You're welcome back if you want to come. Whatever you want. What would your choice be between Gravity and What Dreams May Come?
I'd love to come back. I would pick What Dreams May Come because I dearly miss Robin Williams.
That's what a nice
moment.
I'm gonna cry now.
One for What Gravity, one for What Dreams May Come. Starry, what would you choose out of the two?
I'd agree with Purple. What Dreams May Come. I love Robin Williams, and I've not watched this one for a long time. I've watched Gravity quite recently, so it'd be nice to revisit one that I haven't seen for a bit.
Yeah, I saw this at the cinema, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
You know what? It looks like we're heading in this direction. You might actually appreciate a revisit of this because visually, it's absolutely.
I mean, yeah, it looks beautiful, but my god, it's so simpering. It's
as a spoiler, the only thing that really I think fails about this movie is clearly Robin Williams and whoever plays his wife hate each other, or more.
Yes.
She just hate. I mean, you can see that, but fortunately, they only spend like 2 minutes on screen together. But other than, and it's like this massive love story otherwise. But she clearly couldn't. They should have just recast her with somebody who like didn't hate Robin Williams because she just so clearly did. But again, most of these movies I haven't seen for a while, so I'm going on my memories from a few years ago. Mega Geek, what would your choice be?
Well, I haven't seen What Dreams May Come, and I've seen Gravity, so I guess I'll have to go for What Dreams May Come.
Okay, Dan.
That's my fate seal.
Okay, heads it's Gravity, tails it's What Dreams May Come. Okay, tails, What Dreams May Come.
Okay.
I knew there isn't a god. Sorry, Father. Sorry, Rabbi. I knew it. I knew.
I don't give a toss.
That proves that there is a god, basically.
You're all the devil.
Well, listen, you don't need my vote because it's already decided, man.
Well, what would you vote?
Well, it doesn't matter because if I vote Gravity still loses. If I vote the other one, it wins. So, like, my vote does not count. Thanks for leaving me last, by the way. So, like, you know, some sort of democracy. This is now. I have to be honest. The Robin Williams was one I haven't seen in years. So, if I was actually to choose, it would have been that one as well. Sorry, I can't stand Gravity.
I haven't seen it since it was in the cinema.
Fake and the song
Noel, you're never lost, mate.
Just like a ridiculous movie, and George Clooney is a bore, and Sandra Bullock, I don't know what she won an Oscar for because like
Noel.
people cry.
Noel, you never lost, mate. Not for me, anyway. You're top man, mate. You're top man.
He is.
He is.
I think we need to watch soppy movies every week until Christmas, and eventually we'll get Lee to Thor like Scrooge.
I'll tell you, if that happens, Lee won't be here. He'll be hanging from a tree.
Okay, as always is the way when we have a good movie, a popular movie. We've got long. I normally aim to be like an hour and 15, hour and a half. We're out 45 minutes in, so we're going to wrap up. I want to thank all of you for coming, for taking your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It was a pleasure.
It's Friday. It's going to air on Friday. Friday, the world is your oyster on YouTube. I'm sure many people on the panel have scintillating content about it to explode all over your computer. I hope you enjoy it.
Or tortoise.
I'm going to say, wish everybody a Jew and not a Jew, a Jew. And have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.